In today's GibbsCAM video, we're going to finish off this part we did a few weeks ago, this valve in which we made a casting from the valve, healed up the holes, faces, etc. I have that here in the body bag. If I bring this out, let me put this in the body bag, bring this out. This is our casting we made from the valve. Of course, I don't want it transparent now when we're going to do rendering. I want it more of a solid, so I'm going to select the whole body. Right click, go to the user color, and we're going to select this color here, and this is what we'll use for our casting. So I'll put this back in the body bag and bring our part back out. So the next thing we need to do is create 4 coordinate systems. We already have the one right here on the top when we brought in the model. We need one on the left side, one on the right side, and one on the face. So in order to do that, we're going to bring up our coordinate system. And we just have the one here, so we need to create 3 more. So anytime you click on New CS, it just copies the CS or the coordinate system that it's in already. So when I click New CS, you can see it duplicated the original one. They're both in the same place. So now I'm going to open my CS palettes and say the first one I want to make is just a standard 90 degree from that, just the YZ plane. And as you can see, we're looking at the minus side, the positive side's facing this way. I want it to face the other way. And all you need to do is click this button that toggles the depth axis. Now you're looking at the positive side there. So I'm going to name this left. We'll turn on caps. Make it a little easier to see. And while I'm at it, I'm going to name this first one top, so we know what it is. So I have the top and the left, as you can see there. Now the next one I'm going to create is new CS. I'm going to name this right. And you can see it just duplicated the left one, so now you can see there's 2 there. So I'm going to go to the right one, just toggle my depth axis, and now the positive facing the other side. If you want to check all these coordinate systems to see if you rotated them correctly, just click on the home view and it'll rotate it to the face of your screen, facing your screen. So that's good. So the next one I need to do is I'm just going to go back to top and create a new CS. I'm going to call this front, and I'm going to click on the XZ plane, and you can see it's facing the front. If I go to the home view, you can see it's facing the front. So we have our 4 coordinate systems now. Now I want to create 4 work groups. These are like layers. Gibbs calls them work groups. And I'm going to create 4 of those as well. So the first one I'm going to create is called top. Create a new one. Call this left. New one, call this right, and new one, we'll call this front. So now we have 4 coordinate systems, 4 work groups. So the next objective is to pull the geometry off this part so we can machine it. So let's start with the top and the top here. I'm just going to zoom this up. I'm going to turn face selection on. There's a number of ways you can pull geometry off: face selection, edge selection, profiler. I'm just going to use face selection because this will be very easy on this part. I'm going to select this face and that chamfer, and that's probably everything we need on that face. So once you select it, you can just right click, go to extract edges, click on do it. If I turn off face selection or just click in space, you can see here's the geometry we need to cut this part. And I might as well dimension it while I'm at it. And this is 1/2 inch diameter holes. So the next thing, we're going to move over to the left side of the part. So I'm going to click left coordinate system and left work group. Now as you can see, if I was on the top work group still, notice the color changes to purple. That's Gibbs color saying the work group you were looking at is not in the same coordinate system that you are in now. So it kind of gives you a sign to tell you you're in the wrong coordinate system. So I'm going to click left, and you can see that disappears. So now I want to get everything off this face to machine it. Again, I'm going to use face selection. I'm going to click this face, probably this chamfer, and the bottom of this bore, and that should be everything we need for that. Extract edges, click on do it, and there's everything we need for this side. Let's go to the right side now. We'll just rotate around and do the same thing here, holding the control key down to select more than one. Don't really need that, but we'll get this chamfer as well and extract the edges off that. Now the last one's going to be the front. I'm going to get this face and inside those bores, and that should be everything we need. Now I might want to extract the edge off the holes that go through here so I can kind of check the depth, and I'm just going to turn on edge selection, and I'm going to just select one of these edges and extract the geometry off that. That'll at least give me the inside of where I need to drill. So everything looks pretty good there. Let's open up our tool palette, and I already saved tools from the previous version, so we'll just right click and go to load tools, browse. There's my valve list, and there are the tools to cut this part. So let's turn on cam. So the first thing I want to do is face off the part. Now when we created the casting, we added 1/8 of an inch to all these faces. So that is what we're going to go by. So I'm going to start at the top in the top work group, and there's my geometry. And the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to actually do freehand machining on the facing. We have a facing command, but I want to show you how to do freehand machining, which I do this quite often. It's really handy. I'll just go to the home view and click on geometry, and you want to highlight the tool that you're going to make the tool path. Click on line, mouse line, and there's your tool right there. So it makes it real easy to create a tool path. So I'm going to start about right here. Let's do this again. I'm going to start about right here. Click with your mouse, go across. I'm going to do a little bit of an overlap, back. And you can set this grid to tighter, or you can actually draw perfect geometry how you'd like it, but this looks good enough for me for freehand machining. So I'm going to use a contour tile with that tool. And you always want to make sure before you start filling in blanks or using the Alt key to get your depths is make sure you're always on the correct coordinate systems. To do that, go to the Rotate tab, make sure you're on the top, make sure all these are set how you want them. In this case, they need to be all zeros. So I know there's 1/8 of an inch material, and I want to face it down to this face right here. So I'm going to highlight this box, hold the Alt key down, click that face, and you can see that's Z0. I want to wrap it a little bit above my part and a little bit off my part when I'm done facing. I really don't need any entry or exits on that, and you can put in your RPM and feed rate based on your material. Of course, your material will depend on if you have inserts in there coated, high-speed steel, etc., what your feeds and speeds are going to be. In this case, I just switched over to cast iron, so that should update my feeds and speeds a little bit. And we don't need a ramp down. You don't need round corners or cutter comp on this part. I click on the geometry I just freehand created, click on do it, and there's my first tool path. The next thing I want to do is I'm still going to use the same tool because it's a square corner face mill. I want to go around this part, and we're just going to take it to size for lack of time. But same tool. This time I know it's faced off. So I know it's faced off to this surface here, 0, and I want to go to this depth. So hold the Alt key down, click that depth, and you can see the depth there. Now this time I want to do probably a large entry and exit on there to cut around here. I'm just going to select this edge right here, click on do it, and now we have our toolpath going around the part there. Next thing I want to do is probably drill these holes. So I'm going to clear this out, put in a drilling process. I need a 1/2 inch drill. There is a 1/2 inch drill in my process list, so I'm going to use that. Now here I'm going to wrap it down a little bit closer. Just alt click there. I can see that's -165. I'll just stay 100 thou above there actually. And the surface we're actually cutting, alt click there. And I want to get the full diameter of the drill through the part, so I'm just going to rotate my part a little bit so I can see the underneath side. And I'm going to hold the alt key down, click on that, and you can see that's -1.259. I'm going to round it off to get through there because sometimes castings are variable. So I'm going to go -1.3, we'll say 350. Update RPM and feed rate. Select the 4 holes and do it. Now you can see the clearance is way up high there. That's because we have our clearance plane set real high. We'll check this. That's a little high there. I'll change this to 10. Normally I do that right at the beginning, but also I want to transition between the holes just above the clearance plane. So I'm going to say instead of 10 inches, I want to go to 0.1. Click on redo. So very easy to make changes in Gibbs. If you did something wrong, you can see it all looks pretty good there now. Now we can do cut part rendering and see how it looks. Now you can see it starts out as a square block because that's kind of the envelope of the whole part, which we really don't want. So we're going to change the part, this into, go to body type and click on stock display only. Now if we go back to render, now it's looking at that casting we did before as the stock size. So we'll slow this down a little bit, replay. And there's our cut on the face. Drill the 4 holes. Last thing to do on that would be the chamfer. So let's clear this out and put in a contour with our chamfer tool. Again, everything there looks pretty good. I don't want to go to 165 because I might hit that surface a little bit if I go right to that size. So I'm going to say -0.125. And if I select the inside, change my RPM feed rate. And if I select this edge right here, I can go around there and do a chamfer. Probably really don't need that large of a arc in, arc off. So we're going to go to 0.2. And that looks a little better there. So next we need to do the left side. So I'm going to click on left on my work group and left on my coordinate system. So the first thing I want to do here is probably face this off, and we're going to use first I want to find the center of this so I know I'm going to make a spiral toolpath, and I want to find the center of this part first. So I'm going to bring up my geometry palette, point, find the center of a arc, and there's my point. We'll put a dimension in there. Drag that off there a little bit. So we can see the dimensions there. So I'm going to bring up my plugin menu to create a spiral toolpath. And the X is going to be 0. Turn that off. And Y is going to be -6 inches there from the face. And we're going to space the cut at 2 inches. We're going to start at 2-inch radius, and the cut's going to be 1 inch wide and maximum radius of 6 inches. So let's just click on do it, and you can see there's my spiral cut there. Now you can leave this here if you like, but normally I like to bring geometry up into the surface that I'm cutting. So I'm just going to select this geometry, go to modify, force the depth, alt click that face and move it to there. So now we're on this face. So let's do we'll still use a contour, but we're going to use tool number 1 again. I can just drag and drop it on there. And again, make sure you're on the right coordinate system. This time we want to be left. So where do I want to wrap it to? I'm going to alt click this face. That's 4.5 inches. I know there's 1/8 of an inch material in there. I want to probably get a little bit farther away, so I'm going to say start at 5 inches. 5 inches when we're done. Alt click there. And I know there's 1/8 of an inch beyond that, so I'm going to do 625. Or I could bring out the casting and alt click that as well. So either way you would like to do it. And click on this surface. That's the finished surface. And update your RPM and feed rates. Probably don't really need to do an entry and exit, but it won't hurt anything. So let's click on this geometry. And this time you want to click the center because that's the toolpath you created. Click on do it. And now we have a toolpath cutting this surface here. So next thing I want to do, I'm going to clear this out, is I'm going to probably drill the holes. So I'm going to put in a drilling process. And we probably should measure this hole to see what we have. Let's take a measurement. And I can see that's 3/4. So let's turn our cam back on. And I have a 3/4 inch drill here somewhere. There it is. We could just drag and drop it if we want. And make sure you're on the left side. And again, all the dimensions should still be there. I want to make sure this drill gets through this face though, to the back side. So I'm going to rotate back here. Then you highlight the box you want Gibbs to calculate. Alt click, and you can see that's 3.56. I'm going to round it off to 3.5. Update your RPM and feed rate. You can choose whether you want to peck, full out, whatever you'd like to do. Let's select these holes. Click on do it. And now we have our holes on here. Now the last thing to finish would be the chamfers on here. I'm going to clear this out, put a contour in there with our chamfer tool. And again, make sure you're on the left side. Everything else is pretty good there, but I need to bring the tip down inside there in order to chamfer. So I'm going to say we'll say 3.380. That'll get us down in the cavity a little bit better. And everything there looks pretty good. And we'll do that one. And while we're at it, we'll do the top one as well. And we want to climb mill, cut on the outside, and do it, and everything should be good. And now we can just go back to our isometric view, and let's do a cut part render and see how we look. So if we render, we can see how we did. Got the chamfer, that looks good. Spiral in, drill the holes, chamfer and chamfer. Now we have a couple issues here. The chamfer on here is not deep enough, and here we have not bored out the cavity here before we do the chamfer. So we want to do that. So I can show you real easy how we can fix things in Gibbs and move operations around so it cuts where you would like it to cut in case you made a mistake or forgot something. Pretty easy to go back and forth and fix that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to pull the geometry off this edge here and not the inside edge. I'm going to pull that off, extract the edges. So there's this one. So let's bring up our chamfer. That's the outside one. Let's bring up the inside one. This time we want to make sure we click on the outside contour, climb mill, and all we need to do is click on redo, and that will redo that toolpath. Then let's check the outside one. Okay, we want to cut on the inside there, And that looks pretty good, so we'll redo that one. Then we'll go back to render, and everything should look a lot better. Let's just go back to isometric view there. Okay, then we'll cut part render and see how we did. So I'll cut part render. And finish off. So we have our chamfers here. Now the only issue we have is chamfering this inside before we've cut the bore. So easy to fix on here. Let's just turn off our rendering. And we want to do the inside bore before we do the chamfer. So I'm going to click on this little triangle right in between the two chamfer operations. And I'm going to, we'll just use contour as well. We'll clear this, use this contour as well, and we'll use this 1¼ inch tool to cut out this bore here. Now I'm going to start on this face. Make sure you're on the coordinate system first. Start on this face, which is 4.5 inches, and I want to cut clear down to this face here at 2 inches, and I want to do a spiral cut, so I'm going to put 1/8 of an inch spiral cut. Click on ramp down. I'm just going to cut it right to size for lack of time. We're not going to come back and take a finish pass on here. So click on that. Click on the edge you want to cut and the direction you'd like to go. Climb or conventional. If you want to get a little bit closer, you can go to here. And we want to climb wheel, so I'm going to go this direction here. And you can see we have our spiral cut. Now notice when I click do it, it put it right before these two operations. So let's do a cut part render and see if we fixed our issue. There's our helical move inside the bore. Then we come back and we'll stop it and do the chamfers, and there we have our face done here. Now we're not going to do the right hand side just for lack of time, but it's the same process. You can just click on right, and go to the same side. You can actually copy these processes if you'd like and just change it to the right hand side and to do the flange on the right hand side. So the last thing we want to do is the front. So I'm going to rotate this around, clear this. I'm going to bring up a contour tile with our 3/4 inch end mill, and make sure you're on the correct coordinate system, front. I click here, alt click the casting, 2.5 inches, and I want to face it down to 2.4. I'm going to put a ramp of about 1/10 thou, and we'll get a little bit closer here at 3 inches. And don't need the entry and exit here, we're just going to spiral in. And of course you can update your RPM and feed rate. You click on this one, click on do it, and this one, click on do it. And now we'll have our spiral cuts down to here. And now the next thing we want to do is we want to drill it, small drill, and then tap. So this time I'm going to bring in 3 processes, this drill, and the first one we want to do, let's get a dimension on here first. So we're about 438 7/16. This is going to be this 3/8 NPT tap. So the first thing I want to do is, of course, drill it. It's actually a little bit bigger than 438 for the tap. We're just going to use this drill here. And again, make sure you're on the front. Click this button, do Alt, click, and that's 2.4 to that surface. And I want the edge of the drill to get down right to this edge here, so I'm going to Alt click that, and that's 1 7/8. Everything there looks pretty good. We're going to transition 3 inch between holes. Okay, so the next process is going to be another drill process. This is going to be the 1/8 inch drill. And I want to go down inside the hole a little bit closer, not start pecking way out here. So I'm going to highlight here. Alt click this edge here. That'll get me really close to 1 7/8. I can actually say this could be 2 inch if I want to get down a little bit closer. When I'm done, go to 3 inches there. And I want to get clear through my part, so I'm going to look at the inside bore here on the geometry I extracted on that bore, which is, you can kind of see it right here. And I'll click this surface there, it's 1.4. I want to get a little bit closer in, so I'm going to say 1 3/8 on here. Okay. And the last thing I want to do, another drill process with the tap. Again, I'll click the surface, 2.4, 2.4, and I'm going to go down minus ½ inch with that tool. Rigid tap, adjust your RPM. Everything there looks pretty good. We'll transition up to 3 inches when we're done with this. And then we'll click on both the holes and do them at the same time. Now, one thing we want to do is probably fix this one here. We don't want to transition up to 2 inches because then we'll wipe out going between the holes. So we'll transition to 3 inches there. So just click on the holes you want to cut and click on do it. All right, now we can go back and let's go back to isometric view and we'll cut part render and see what it looks like. Slow it down just a little bit here. There's our spiral cut. Now we'll slow this down here. There's our spiral cut for the faces. And drill and tap. If you look in there, there's our hole and our 1/8 inch drill. We want to make sure we got through the part, which we did. You can see the holes going through the part there. So the cut part rendering looks good. Like I say, you could do the right side there just by following these steps as well. To the right hand side there, and everything looks pretty good. Now the reason you're seeing red here is because we don't have enough flutes on that tool, so we can fix that pretty easily. So it's 2 inches deep on this bore, so this is right at the edge there. So I'm going to say there's actually 3 inches of flutes on here and 4 inches out of holder. Change that a little bit. Now if we cut part render, everything should look a lot better now. Okay. Now if we want, we can run this in machine sim so you can see what it looks like in the machine. So we'll close these menus out and bring up our machine sim. So let's show you what it looks like with a machine tool. So here's our machine. I didn't put any fixtures in here, but you can kind of see where it's sitting in space here. And we'll rewind and play. Our rotations. Speed that up a little bit. There's our holes for the ports. And our part's finished, so you can see what it looks like and what your machine's going to actually do in Machine Sim. Thank you for watching.